Hello everyone, and today I am going to answer the biggest burning question in Formula 1 right now. Are we witnessing the fall of Sebastian Vettel? So this is a really interesting topic to cover. I'm certainly excited to get into it. I hope you are too. But before we get started, please check out my channel Kids Love F1 and look at some of my other videos. I would really appreciate it. But now let's get started. Sebastian Vettel has been struggling ever since the Canadian Grand Prix, and this all culminated in an absolute nightmare of a weekend at the Italian Grand Prix. Vettel really needed to do well at Monza because it was Ferrari's home race, and it was one of the few races where Ferrari had the best car. However, it was yet another dreadful race for Vettel, headlined by yet another mistake, this time a spin at the Ascari chicane. Meanwhile, his much younger teammate Charles Leclerc heroically fended off both Mercedes to claim Ferrari's first win at Monza in almost 10 years and stole the hearts of the Tifosi in the process. And Sebastian Vettel has been at Ferrari for 5 years and still hasn't managed to win at Monza for them, but then Charles Leclerc turns up and wins for Ferrari in his first year at the Italian team. So Sebastian Vettel's confidence was already quite low coming into the race, but I just can't imagine what his confidence level is at right now. So as you can see, Sebastian Vettel is in quite a tough situation right now, and all the hype and attention is surrounded around his younger teammate, and the team, the Tifosi, and the Italian media will certainly gravitate to Leclerc because of this. And there's just been a lot of negativity surrounding Vettel, most of it coming from the media, sometimes from the Tifosi, and just from regular F1 fans in general. Personally, I don't believe any of it. I still hold the belief that Sebastian Vettel is capable of challenging for championships and battling the likes of Verstappen, Leclerc, and Hamilton. The thing is, for Vettel to be at his best, everything needs to be right, from the team, to the car, to the teammate. All of these things need to be exactly to his liking for him to be at his best. Vettel isn't like Alonso or Hamilton who can overdrive an inferior car and make it seem way better than it actually is. Sebastian Vettel is the type of driver that is unbeatable when the stars align. The problem is, when he isn't set up to perform at his best, it turns into a complete disaster like what we saw at Monza. Now let me talk about the more disastrous side of Sebastian Vettel, the driver who always cracks under pressure, who's always making so many mistakes and gets hot under the helmet. It's been happening quite a lot recently, especially for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and it's been happening for a combination of reasons. The first and most obvious explanation for Vettel's lackluster performances recently is pressure. It's a well-known fact that Sebastian Vettel is not good at driving under pressure and often makes mistakes in high-pressure situations, with Canada and Bahrain this year being prime examples. However, I think the frequent mistakes this season are down to more than just an inability to deal with pressure. Because take Monza, his mistake at Monza. He just lost the car so randomly, and I don't think all these mistakes are completely down to pressure. And like I said, Sebastian Vettel isn't the type of driver who can overdrive inferior cars, if you know what I mean. An example of overdriving is Fernando Alonso somehow challenging for the championship in 2012 despite having an absolutely terrible Ferrari. But Vettel isn't that type of driver. He's a driver that has a very narrow working range, and he is unbeatable, but only when certain requirements are met. But if Vettel isn't comfortable with the car or the team, that's when you start to see these types of mistakes. And I think that this 2019 season has just been a case of him not being comfortable with the car. It's a well-known fact that Sebastian Vettel prefers cars with a more stable rear and more of an emphasis on aerodynamic grip. If you look at the Red Bulls that Sebastian Vettel won his 4 championships with, they were actually one of the slowest cars on the grid at that time on the straights, but man, that car just had so much grip. I mean, if you look at the onboards, there was almost no sliding at all. That's how planted the rear was and how much grip it had. But the thing is, the 2019 Ferrari is the complete opposite, with more of a focus on straight line speed at the expense of aero. And you can clearly see that Vettel hasn't been comfortable with the car this entire season, And it's just a case of the philosophy of the 2019 SF90 not suiting Vettel's driving style. On the other hand, Charles Leclerc is the complete opposite. He excels with this type of car and is able to handle an unstable rear a lot better than Vettel does. Like if you see Leclerc driving, he's really hustling the car, really wringing the neck. The rear is sliding a lot, but he still manages to drive it fairly quickly. So I think that is where the mistakes and occasional lack of pace from Vettel is coming from. Like I said, Vettel isn't the type of driver that is able to be extremely quick no matter the car. When he tries to overdrive a car that he's not comfortable with, he often makes mistakes. I'm not trying to make excuses for Sebastian Vettel. A 4-time world champion definitely shouldn't be making amateur mistakes. But these mistakes are more because he isn't adapting well to the car. Don't get me wrong, being under pressure is part of it, but it isn't the biggest issue. So not being comfortable with the car and being under pressure are two things affecting Vettel, but a lot of his issues are just mental. Having his win taken away in Canada because of the penalty was a huge mental blow to Sebastian Vettel. I think after that weekend, he realized he wouldn't be able to win the World Championship, and I think that Vettel even lost a bit of love for the sport at that point. He hasn't fully recovered from that controversial result, and it's affected both his motivation and confidence. Getting a victory would certainly help Vettel get his confidence and motivation back, but it seems unlikely that Ferrari will win now that Monza and Spa are past us. So this brings me to the next question. Is Sebastian Vettel past his prime? In my opinion, Sebastian Vettel is as capable as ever to challenge for wins and championships. Yes, he has been making more mistakes, but as I said, it's more down to not being comfortable with the car. At the end of the day, this is all just the media making the situation seem worse than it actually is. People don't seem to remember that Vettel went from 20th to 2nd in Germany and convincingly beat Leclerc in Hungary just 2 races ago. Yes, Vettel hasn't had a great season, but he's far from finished in Formula 1. So this brings me to the final and most important question in this video. Can Sebastian Vettel return to his winning ways? Yes, I do think that eventually Sebastian Vettel will gain back his old form, but some things do need to happen first. Firstly, Vettel needs to be closely involved in the development of next year's car. 2020 is not only a big season for Sebastian Vettel, but also a big season for Ferrari. Yes, they won at Spa and Monza, but it's safe to say that Ferrari got it completely wrong this year in terms of car development. Building a car that's only good on 2 circuits is not a winning strategy. I think that they should design a car similar to the 2017 SF70H. Vettel had a really good season in that car. He looked really comfortable, and I think the championship would have been closer if Ferrari didn't have a power deficit to Mercedes that year. And a great example of Vettel being really comfortable in that car is his quality lap at Singapore that year. It was just absolutely breathtaking, certainly one of his best laps. He just looked really comfortable. The rear was planted, very few mistakes, and it was just a perfect example of Sebastian Vettel, the 4-time world champion we all know at his very best. Unfortunately, hello, darkness, my old friend, that happened at the start of the race that year, but you get the point. Sebastian Vettel was really comfortable in that car, and Vettel is a confidence driver. When he's rolling, he can be unstoppable, and that was the perfect example. As for the final 7 races of the season, Vettel just needs to have a solid and trouble-free end to the season. Winning a race will help him get his confidence back, although a win in any of the next 7 races will be pretty tough for Ferrari. But if Vettel doesn't make mistakes and manages to at least match Leclerc for the rest of the season, then a lot of the negativity surrounding Vettel will slowly go away. But do not worry, we will get the old Sebastian Vettel back. It's only a matter of time before he gets a win, and his confidence will return eventually. But to be able to fight with the young guys, we need to see the younger and more aggressive version of Sebastian Vettel. The Vettel that gave no regard for team orders. The Vettel that passed Alonso on the outside of Curva Grande. The Vettel that won 9 races in a row and dominated when the stars aligned. I'm not saying Vettel should be reckless and should start causing incidents, but he does need to be more aggressive and feisty behind the wheel when going up against the likes of Leclerc and Verstappen. Nonetheless, he is a 4-time world champion, and I really hope that number becomes 5 before he retires. But regardless of whether he returns back to form or not, we should appreciate what he has accomplished over his illustrious career. But that's going to do it for this video. It was a pretty long one today, but I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, Kids Love F1, for some more great F1 videos. As always, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.